Somewhere in Britain this morning, somebody is driving a Land Rover Freelander they bought new. 2 decades old, still going, still doing the school run. And the badge on the back of that car has just been handed to a Chinese company. Freelander is back after 11 years. Except it is not a Land Rover. It is built in China by Chery. It is more than 5 meters long, bigger than a Defender, and it calls itself a British brand. 10 British car badges, and who actually owns them now? Number 1 is the one nobody saw coming. Before the countdown, one number to hold in your head. There is not a single British-owned volume car manufacturer left in this country. Not one. The last one died at Longbridge in 2005 when MG Rover collapsed and roughly 5,900 people lost their jobs on the same day. Everything you see on a British road with a British name on the front of it is now owned by somebody in Germany, France, India, America or China. The factories are still here. Solihull still builds Range Rovers, Oxford still builds Minis, Crewe still builds Bentleys, but the decisions are made a very long way from Solihull, Oxford and Crewe. Those factories have been foreign-owned for 20 years, and most people have made their peace with it. What is happening with Freelander is different, and by the end of this video, you will see why. Number 10. Vauxhall. Start with the badge nearly everybody in Britain has driven at some point. Vauxhall built vehicles in Luton for 120 years, through 2 world wars, through the collapse of the rest of the British motor industry. Generation after generation of families in that town worked in that plant. A Cavalier, an Astra, a Corsa. If you learned to drive in the last 50 years, there is a very good chance you learned in a Vauxhall. Vauxhall is owned by Stellantis, the group formed from the merger of Peugeot Citroën and Fiat Chrysler. Head office in Amsterdam. Not Luton, not London, Amsterdam. And Stellantis confirmed the closure of the Luton plant, putting around 1,100 jobs at risk. The company pointed at the zero-emission vehicle mandate as a cause, saying the rules were hurting its business model because British buyers were not demanding electric cars fast enough to meet the targets. So the Vauxhall badge survives. You can walk into a dealer tomorrow and buy a Corsa. But Vauxhall, as a thing Britain makes, has gone. And it went while most people were looking the other way. Number 9. Mini. Now a car that is genuinely still built here, and built well. The Mini is owned by BMW and has been since the breakup of the Rover Group. The cars are assembled at Oxford at the old Cowley plant, which has been building cars since 1913, more than a century on the same site. And this one is worth being fair about, because Mini is the success story of foreign ownership in Britain. BMW took a name that had been run into the ground under British Leyland, invested properly, and turned it into a global premium brand that sells in enormous numbers. Oxford employs thousands of people building them. That is what good foreign ownership looks like. A German company bought a British name, spent money on it, kept the factory, and made it work. Hold that Mini thought, because it is the fairest argument on the other side of this entire video, and we will come back to it. Number 8. Bentley. Crewe, 1946. Bentley has built cars in that town for 80 years, and the craftsmanship is genuinely world-class. Bentley belongs to the Volkswagen Group and has done since 1998, when Volkswagen and BMW effectively split the remains of Rolls-Royce and Bentley between them in one of the strangest deals in motoring history. Volkswagen got the Crewe factory and the Bentley name. BMW got the Rolls-Royce name and had to build a factory from nothing. 2 German companies carving up the 2 most British badges on Earth, and neither of them thought to ask anybody here. Under Volkswagen, Bentley has been transformed. The Continental GT turned a struggling niche maker into a serious luxury business. And the Crewe factory has had hundreds of millions spent on it. Crewe is foreign money doing something British money could not or would not do. But the badge on the bonnet is German property. And if Wolfsburg decides Crewe is surplus one day, Crewe does not get a vote. Neither do you. Number 7. Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce was the other half of that 1998 deal. Rolls-Royce cars are owned by BMW, and since 2003 they have been built at Goodwood in West Sussex, in a plant BMW built from scratch. Note the split because it confuses people constantly. Rolls-Royce, the aero engine company, is still British and still independent. Rolls-Royce, the car company, is German-owned. Same name, two completely different businesses, and only one of them still belongs to us. Goodwood is thriving. Rolls-Royce sells more cars now than at any point in its history. But if you want to buy the most British car in the world, you are buying a BMW. Think about that next time you see one. Number 6. Lotus. With Lotus, China enters the story properly for the first time. Lotus was founded by Colin Chapman in 1948, built at Hethel in Norfolk, and gave Britain some of the finest handling cars ever made. The Esprit, the Elise, 7 Formula One constructors' titles. Lotus is now controlled by Geely, the Chinese group that also owns Volvo. Geely took control in 2017 and has put serious investment into the business, pushing Lotus upmarket into electric SUVs and saloons. Hethel is still there. Sports cars are still built there. But the company's future is decided in Hangzhou, and the volume models come out of China. If you own a Lotus, your parts supply already runs through a Chinese group. The Lotus deal happened 9 years ago, and almost nobody objected at the time. Worth remembering, given what comes later in this list. Number 5. Aston Martin. Aston Martin is the badge everybody assumes is safe. Aston Martin has been British since 1913, builds at Gaydon in Warwickshire, and carries more national identity per square inch than any other car company in the country. It has also gone through bankruptcy roughly 7 times, which tells you everything about the economics of building beautiful British cars. Making a car people love and making money doing it have almost never been the same business in this country. Aston Martin is publicly listed rather than owned outright by anybody, but the shareholder register tells a story. Geely, the same Chinese group that controls Lotus, has built a significant stake in the company over recent years, alongside a consortium led by Lawrence Stroll.
We did it!
I want to be careful with the Aston Martin figures because shareholdings move and the precise numbers change. But the direction is not in question. Chinese capital is now inside Aston Martin, and it was not there a decade ago. Number 4. Rover, Austin, Morris, Triumph, Riley. Number 4 is not a company. It is a graveyard. Every one of those names built cars in Britain within living memory. Every single one of them is dead, and the naming rights to most of them are now sitting in a filing cabinet belonging to a foreign company. The Rover name ended up with BMW and was later transferred to Tata Motors when Tata bought Jaguar Land Rover, largely so nobody else could use it. Austin, Morris, Triumph and Riley are scattered across various foreign owners. Dormant, kept on the shelf like tools nobody intends to pick up. Those badges were not small. Austin built the 7 and the Mini. Morris built the Minor, a car so ordinary and so loved that people still restore them in garages across this country. Triumph built the Spitfire and the Stag. Between them, they employed hundreds of thousands of British people across the Midlands and the North. Think about what that actually means for you. Somebody in Mumbai or Munich owns the right to put the word Rover on a car and sell it to you. If they wanted to, they could. And the interesting question, which we will answer at number 1, is what happens when somebody finally decides to? Now, if you have ever owned any of the cars I have named so far, do me a favour and type the number 1 in the comments. Just the number 1. I read every single one of them, and I want to see how many of us are out here. And if you have not subscribed, please do. It is free, it takes a second, and it is the only reason this channel can keep pulling this together. Because from number 3, these companies are still trading. Number 3. Jaguar Land Rover. Jaguar Land Rover is the biggest thing Britain still has, and the one that proves foreign ownership can go extremely well and extremely badly in the space of a decade. Jaguar and Land Rover were bought by Tata Motors of India in 2008 for $2.3 billion. At the time, the industry was skeptical. Tata was best known for building the cheapest car in the world, and people asked whether a company that made a $2,000 city car could look after Jaguar. The answer for a long time was yes. Under Tata, billions went into new models and new factories. Land Rover became enormously profitable. The Defender and the Range Rover are 2 of the strongest products in the global market, and they are built at Solihull and Halewood by British workers on British soil to a standard Britain had not managed under British ownership for decades. Tata was, on any fair reading, a better custodian of Jaguar and Land Rover than the British companies that had owned them before. Then came the last 2 years. Jaguar stopped building cars entirely for its relaunch. A cyber attack shut all 3 British plants for 5 weeks and cost the UK economy £1.9 billion. Annual profit collapsed from £2.5 billion to 14 million. Around 300 more management roles are now at risk. Solihull and Halewood are still running, but every one of those decisions was made in Mumbai, and you watched it happen from here. Number 2. MG. MG is the direct precedent for everything at number 1. MG was born in Oxford in the 1920s. Morris garages, sports cars, Le Mans, the MGB, the badge on the front of a generation of British roadsters. If your father owned a sports car in the 60s or 70s, there is a decent chance it was an MG, and there is a decent chance it did not start on cold mornings. MG Rover collapsed at Longbridge in April 2005. Around 5,900 jobs went, and the name, along with the site, ended up in Chinese hands. Shanghai Automotive, SAIC, took the badge. Longbridge assembled MG sports cars under Chinese ownership until production there finally ceased in 2016. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. MG today is the largest Chinese brand in Britain. It registered 48,741 cars in the first half of this year, up 14%. It has more than 150 dealerships here, wider coverage than Mazda or Honda. A British badge bought out of a collapse, rebuilt in China, and sold back to you in numbers the original company never managed. You have driven past a dozen of them today. Read that MG sequence again, because you are about to watch it happen a second time. Except this time, nothing collapsed, and nobody was forced to sell anything.
Look at the color on that one.
Number 1. Freelander. The Land Rover Freelander launched in 1997. Compact, affordable, and for a period, the best-selling 4x4 in Europe. It was the first vehicle in the world to offer hill descent control. 2 generations, discontinued in 2015, replaced by the Discovery Sport, and most people assumed that was the end of it. In June 2024, Jaguar Land Rover and Chery signed a letter of intent to bring the name back. And what they have built is not a Land Rover model. Freelander has been launched as a completely standalone brand, not a car under the Land Rover umbrella, its own marque, sitting alongside Chery, Omoda, JQ, and the rest of the Chery family. Number 1, Part 2. The scale of the operation. The scale of the Freelander operation is the part that should stop you. Freelander has a global headquarters and design hub in Shanghai, a research and development institute in Suzhou, a manufacturing plant at Changshu that has just received an additional 3 billion yuan of investment, around $436 million, to upgrade its production lines. Partnerships with Huawei for assisted driving, CATL for batteries, and Qualcomm for the electronics. 6 models in 5 years, a new vehicle roughly every 6 months. 60 stores signed across 50 Chinese cities already, targeting 100 stores by the end of this year. That is not a badging exercise. That is a car company being built from nothing, at speed, with a British name on the door. And the Freelander marketing line is the thing that will stick in your throat. Freelander is being pitched as a British premium intelligent all-terrain brand, aimed at 90 markets in both left and right-hand drive, including the European Union and the United Kingdom. The first car is the Freelander 8. It is over 5.1 meters long, wider than 2 meters, with a 3-meter wheelbase. That is bigger than a Defender 110. The original Freelander was a compact family 4x4 that fitted on your driveway. This thing is a full-size luxury SUV, and it would not. It sits on Chery's iMax architecture, an 800-volt system that takes battery electric, range extender, or plug-in hybrid. 800 volts matters because it is what allows very fast charging, and it is a specification most European manufacturers are still working towards. The launch version is a range extender with a 1.5-litre turbocharged petrol engine acting as a generator. LiDAR as standard. Huawei's assisted driving system. A Qualcomm Snapdragon processor running the cabin. Expected UK pricing is somewhere around £60,000. That is what it would cost you. Jaguar Land Rover penned the designs. Chery engineers the cars and builds them. And the concept that previewed it was called the 97, named for the year the original Land Rover Freelander launched. So what does JLR think about a Chinese company selling a British-badged car in Britain? The new chief executive, PB Balaji, was asked directly whether Jaguar Land Rover would stop Chery bringing Freelander to the UK. He said they would not. He also said the Chinese-built SUVs would not cannibalize any current Land Rover products if they were sold here. Reports suggest UK sales would not go through existing Jaguar Land Rover dealerships. China gets the cars first, in the second half of this year. British showrooms probably would not see a Freelander until 2027. So this is not something arriving next month. It is something you should know is coming. Number 0. the other side of the argument. Because there is a genuine case for the Freelander deal, and it deserves a proper hearing, not a token paragraph. Start with the Mini. BMW took a British name that British management had run into the ground, spent serious money on it, kept Oxford open, and built a global business employing thousands of British workers. Bentley at Crewe is the same story with a German owner. Rolls-Royce at Goodwood sells more cars than at any point in its history. Foreign ownership did not kill those badges, it saved them. Second, the Freelander name is not being taken from anybody. Jaguar Land Rover was not forced to sell. It chose to license a dormant name it had not used since 2015 to a joint venture partner it has worked with since 2012 in the largest car market on Earth. That is not a defeat. That is monetizing an asset that was sitting idle. Third, look at what Jaguar Land Rover is getting out of it. Chery has an electric platform, a supply chain, and a cost base that JLR would need years and billions to replicate. In exchange for a name and some design work, Jaguar Land Rover gets a stake in a brand aiming at 90 markets. Given that JLR's profit just fell to £14 million, a revenue stream that costs it almost nothing is not something to sneer at. And fourth, the car itself might be good. 800-volt architecture, Huawei driver assistance, CATL batteries. On paper, the Freelander 8 is more advanced than most things in a British showroom at £60,000. None of that is nothing. If the Freelander comes here, sells well, and you get a better car for your money, the badge on the front is a sentimental objection rather than a practical one. You are allowed to weigh that however you like. What this means for you. So what do you actually do with any of this, standing on a forecourt looking at a car? First, if an old Freelander is sitting on your drive right now, the name being licensed does not affect your car, your parts supply, or your value. Land Rover specialists will carry on servicing the original Freelander exactly as they do now. Nothing changes on your driveway. Second, if a Freelander does reach a British forecourt in 2027, treat it as what it is: a new brand with no UK track record. That means no residual value history, so nobody knows what a 3-year-old one is worth. It means checking how many dealers are within an hour of you. And it means getting a real insurance quote on the exact model before you sign anything, because insurers price new arrivals cautiously, and some have declined to quote on new Chinese brands entirely. Third, if you are buying any British badged car at all, check who owns it and where it is built, because those are now two different questions. A Mini is British built and German owned. A Freelander would be Chinese built and British named. Neither is wrong, but knowing which is which tells you where the parts come from and who decides the model's future. Fourth, on values. A badge changing hands does not move used prices in the short term. What moves them is dealer network size and parts availability. Watch those two numbers, not the ownership headlines. If your local Land Rover dealer is still there in 5 years, your discovery is fine. If 3 of them shut, that is when you start paying attention. 10 badges, 1 country. Not one of them run from here anymore. And every one of them has probably sat on your driveway, or your father's, at some point in the last 50 years. Before you go, the record, as always. Confirmed. The Freelander brand launch, the standalone structure, the 3 billion yuan Changshu investment, the 6 models in 5 years, the Freelander 8 dimensions and specification, and PB Balaji's comments that JLR would not block UK sales. The MG, Lotus, Mini, Bentley and Rolls-Royce ownership positions. Reported but not settled. Freelander UK pricing around £60,000 and a 2027 arrival. Neither has been formally confirmed, and Chery has not said how it would sell the cars here. Still developing. Aston Martin's shareholding structure, which moves, and whether Freelander comes to Britain at all. So, tell me in the comments, did you own an old Freelander, and would you buy one with a Chinese-built badge on the front? Or is that a line you will not cross? I genuinely do not know which way this community falls on this one, and I want to find out. And if this was worth your time, give it a like, send it to somebody who owned a Freelander, and subscribe. I will be following this one, because the first Freelander to land on a British forecourt will tell us a great deal about where all of this is going.